What's up, everyone? I want to start off by giving a shout out to Find the Good. Find the Good is a clothing brand and lifestyle that I relate to and strongly support. Their mission is spreading positivity and finding the best in any situation. Find the good, spread love, positivity, and encouragement. I'll be the first to admit I have a lot of moments where I'm hard on myself or feeling down, but I try to find the good and be grateful. So check out findthegood.com, enter code name Showtime10 for 10% off your order. That's Showtime10 for 10% off your order. Click the link in the bio. And as always, thank you for the support. What's up, guys? This week, I'm back with a special guest whose passion is leading, education, mental health, and encouragement. She shares her journey of what made her want to pursue education, her current role as an instructional coach and STEM coordinator based out of Indianapolis, and what her goals are in the education field, as well as her mission behind her platform, The Leading Learner. We also talk about our years working together, and of course, we cover our experiences as we just completed the Indy Monumental Half Marathon. Please welcome my friend, Becca Bersani. Okay, we are officially on.
Okay.
Official.
Can't wait. So thrilled to be here.
Attempt number 7.
2. It was enough with the first couple attempts, but yes. I'm just honored to be on Project Showtime.
Yeah, well, a pretty big deal, mainly in my household. So
yeah, that's all you need to be.
Yeah. So we have Becca Bersani on here, technically for the second time, but first official time. And let's see, we just completed the Indy Monumental Half Marathon. It's kind of wordy.
Yeah. How do you feel? Do you think he'll do another one?
So I'm going to come off probably, I'm not trying to come off as arrogant. Okay. I didn't feel very challenged doing it.
Oh my God.
But I think it's because, no, hear me out. I think it's because that our team spent months either holding each other accountable or telling each other we were running, whether that's true or not.
I don't think you'd be throwing out lies.
I was going off of your facial expression, but I think it was hard, but I feel like after a certain mile, I was like, oh, we're just this is just what we're doing. This is what our body's doing.
What mile was that for you? Let's say the mile that started to get hard on 3. Ready?
Okay.
1, 2, 3.
7.
6. Oh, okay. That wasn't that bad.
Yep.
I thought you were going to be like 13.
Oh, I was going to say 1.
Yeah.
Or something. I had someone at the gym ask me, they're like, when did you feel like you wanted to stop? And I was like, at the national anthem.
At the beginning.
Yeah, at the beginning.
Yeah. No, honestly, listen to that. I do agree. I think running and training for half marathons is the new thing. I don't know if your TikTok feed has it, but mine definitely does. Where
it is now.
Runner talk. Yeah, it's cool. Which I can respect. Not that I ever wanted to be on that, but here I am. But I think it's a cool trend. It's something that's good to do for yourself. It's cool to accomplish that. And I think it was good for us too, because that was your first as well.
Yeah. Could we explain why we decided to do the half? Because you remember how it started?
Yes.
How this conversation started?
I can start.
Yes.
I wanted to do it. Honestly, I didn't want to do it. I had a friend, our friend Jelena, who wanted to do it. And I have such FOMO and am so influenced by her that I said, I'll do it because you're doing it.
Okay.
And then we thought that someone from our work was going to do it with us. And then I think I had a shift that night that was I don't know if you were I think you were working, or that next day. It was a day shift or something.
It was a day shift, and I think it was bartending it.
Yes. And I told you that we were doing it, you shoot with us, and you somehow were influenced by that and agreed. And then we thought we almost had...
Hang on. Oh. Let me just interject a little bit. I approached you, and so I have a goal to... I'm competing in Golden Gloves in March.
Okay.
So I already knew I was going to I'm going to be running more. I'm going to focus on my diet for...
Okay.
And obviously running helps with weight and endurance and everything, and I need that for Golden Gloves.
Right.
So it was a couple months. It was in June when we officially signed up, and I remember you were working. So it was a day shift, and I was like, "Hey, have you ever ran a 5K?" And your response was, "You should just do the half marathon."
You asked me if I did a 5K the same day that I ironically had signed up for the half marathon.
Yeah, that's what happened. I walked up and I was like, "Hey, have you ever?"
Fitness a lot, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, "Have you ever ran a 5K?"
And then I was like, "Oh my God, you should do this with us." Yeah.
Great, that's a huge Huge gap.
I mean,
Yeah.
just a couple extra.
But we did it after months of training. What was the hardest part of training?
I think, especially with how much I like different types of workouts, and I've told you this before, the one downside is like you really just run. I mean, like you can do other workouts and you should, like, so you should cross train and you should do weights and you should stretch. Like I definitely learned the importance of that. But there were some days where it's like, I don't want to go home and run and I don't want to feel the pressure to run. Like I'm like a fit enough person where like I could be more disciplined. I own that. But at the same time, like I like enjoying working out. And so if there was a day that I'm like, I just literally don't have it in me or I literally don't have the time, I hated knowing that that was one day that I'm now behind on my training. So there was like this impending like pressure to me. But I helped myself with that knowing that was going to happen because I started training sooner knowing that I was going to have plenty of weeks where like I wasn't the best.
My thing is like, for me to actually like run that day, it would have to be in the morning. Yeah. Not exactly because of like my schedule. Like I had the availability to do it because I do work from home, but it's like,
I was bad at running in the evening.
Let's just do this and get it done with. Yeah. And then like there's a plus side and a bad, like the downside is like, I already worked out today. I can have like a double B bacon cheeseburger now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it is kind of like you get after it in the morning. It's done and out of the way. And it's a good start to the day for working out too. But
did your joints hurt? Because I felt like that was the big issue with mine is that I'm 29 years old and I was having so many body pains that you were just apparently a squeaky little wheel and good to go.
So my first official like long run was, I think it was like a 5 mile run. Okay. That was my first long run, and this was back in like July. And I remember we were texting the group of like, "Hey, we ran 5 miles today."
Yeah, that used to feel like a win.
Yeah, and and it still kind of hurts a little bit, but like my upper left calf it's like a little strained or something. I was like, that's weird. But it didn't hurt at all while running. It was more like if I'm like squatting to like stand up or something like that. That was the only injury I really had because I was still going to the boxing gym like 2 to 3 times a week. And then when training really started to pick up was when we were, I think, 8 weeks out. So that's when I tried to follow a plan where it was like my Sundays were rest days, my Fridays were rest days, and then it was like Tuesdays were like 2 or 3 mile runs. Monday and Thursdays were like 5 mile runs. And then Wednesday was cross training. I just went to the gym.
Yeah, you were the best trained out of all of us, but we all did really well, honestly.
I don't think I think we all did really well.
I mean, I think I trained just enough to complete that and not have hated it.
How about, what if we were it as we're in the best versions of ourselves?
That is so...
Is that encouraging?
So yeah, I mean, accomplishment. I don't plan to ever run a marathon. I promise.
I will never do that.
I just have absolutely no interest. But I love that for anyone that does. It just couldn't be me.
Yeah. I think it hit really hard when we saw the route of like, okay, we're going here. And then you zoom out and you're like, oh, they're the big blue circle that goes like all up to Broad Ripple and back downtown. And so I applaud those people who do it. Yeah. It won't be me.
Yeah. I love that for everyone else. But really.
Yeah. Live your truth.
We will do other things with our bodies, but.
Yeah.
That wasn't the wording. But
it's not worded that way. But we will achieve other fitness goals.
Right. Oh, yes, of course. So yeah, that was an experience. I'm proud of us. We did it.
Okay. When did it, we're almost done with the marathon talk.
Okay. Yeah, because I should probably tell them
what you do and who you are. What was the hardest part race day? Like, when did you feel like, first up, did you walk at all?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm a no-shame walker. I didn't start walking though until the 3 of us split. I think after that was when it started to get kind of hard. And then I was like, okay. We just got it. Because like I knew the long side run was 10. But then like getting to 10 after that I was like, what?
That's when I picked up my pace.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
That was a nice little detail you could have in here.
I know.
Okay.
No, but even
that was
like
when I started alternating walking.
So even the thing was like even that though, you guys were, it's not like I was really far ahead of you.
I was that far behind you.
No, because if you check the times, you guys were all within like, I think you and Jelena were still within like 3 minutes of me finishing. Yeah. And like, I think it was, I didn't know where the finish line was.
Yeah.
Because I start to see people and I'm like, all right, I know people are watching me that I know. So I'm going to like kind of turn on.
Right.
You know, I just want to like
The
get,
big
like
watch.
well, my hair was up, but otherwise, if my hair was down, it would have been like that. But it was more like, all right, let me like gas out because every run that I did, I was gassing out. So I was like, let me just try to like bolt past people.
No, you hit mile or like a mile 11, you like start to get it, and then once you're at 12, you're like, I'm gonna get this done.
Yeah, but then like I thought, like you take a turn and you see like all the crowds of people. I'm like, oh, cool. And there's like this check line. I was like, that's the finish line, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't. So I'm like, still having like sprint. I'm like, oh, this sucks. And then the legs definitely locked up.
What advice would we give for anyone that has thought about doing half marathon but like has never done it before? Doesn't like. I don't know about you. I never liked running before this.
I didn't.
I still don't love it. I can do it. I appreciate it, but I don't love it. And I know I'm good at it now. But like, what would be your advice if someone's like, I kind of want to try it?
I had the other day actually. I ran like last week or something, my first run since the marathon. And I text my friend Yorman, he's a professional boxer. And like him and I text each other for like training. And like I said something like saying no is just as easy as like tying your shoes. So like it's easy to like not run, but it's just as easy to like say I don't want to compared to like just go jog a mile.
Mm-hmm.
Or like and then just stay consistent with it. You don't have to like push yourself.
Yeah.
But it is something where I feel like you will see the benefits and rewards like each run, like the next one, you're like, oh, like I didn't feel as tired at mile 2 as I normally do.
Yeah. Or now I can say I've run 6 miles.
Yeah.
I think that was a cool feeling.
The advice that I'm looking for though is like, what do you guys listen to when you're running? Like, what do people like marathons? Like, do you do audiobooks? How was that?
I loved it. That was like the only thing that got me through my long runs was I listened to like a good book because I would just like I psych myself out mentally. So if you're someone that psychs yourself out mentally and you're thinking about doing it, I would say put enough time in your schedule where you can like buy in. Like there were a couple of training weeks I feel like in the first month where like I was just at the same mileage and I just let myself like do 4 miles and 4 weekends in a row because I was like I just want to feel comfortable with that. So like build in enough time. Especially for the weeks that it's going to get busy and you know you're not going to hit your runs. Because you and I were very different on that. Like I would do like audiobooks or podcasts on my long runs because I thought it was entertaining and it made like the time go by faster.
Yeah.
And because I didn't have to think about my pace, so I didn't really care how fast I was going.
Okay.
And then like on my short runs, I would do like music. And then because in my mind, I was like, okay, every song is around 3 minutes. If I listen to 3-4 songs, I'm already done with a mile.
That's a good way of looking at it.
But I don't know, that was mine.
Yeah, I mess up because if I listen to like hip hop with like a fast beat, then I'll want to like run quick to it. If I listen to like pop music or fun stuff, like then I'll want to like sing along to it. But it's still like fun that you're like not thinking. Like I started our half marathon with like a little run pop playlist where I'm like, all right, cool, I have like some Ed Sheeran or whatever, and then like I picked it up a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, experiment. That was kind of the fun part though.
I think it was really fun, and it was cool that we did it.
Yeah.
So, and now it's done, and on to the next. Would you ever run a half marathon again? Next year. What if we just do that one next year?
I just don't.
We don't want to think about it.
Yeah. I think I just want to bask in the fact that I did that.
Okay.
Yeah. It was
That's
just
fair.
only a few weeks ago.
Okay, so let's talk about why you're here.
Yeah.
Okay. As an influencer, what is some advice that you would give to someone struggling with their profile views?
Thank you so much. So, because of all of my 210 followers, not growing, not declining. No,
it's important that they're not declining. That's almost just as important.
Yeah. I will say, as a teacher though, or as a person that works in education, whenever I get notified that like someone viewed my profile or certain like names viewed my profile, I do have a quick panic of like, is this the day that a student is on my profile? Which is fine. Like I don't post anything like bad. I'm not like for that reason. But every time I go on there, I'm like, is user 5,496?
And you're talking about
or stranger.
You're talking about TikTok. So the leading learner.
Yeah.
Okay. So your background is in education.
Yes. Yeah.
We have talking points.
Yeah.
So it's in education. So you wanted to pursue that. Why? Was there like you have a family member who was a teacher?
This is such like a common question we ask all. A lot of times you could ask this if you're in an interview for education or like to be a teacher, but it's fair. I knew I was good at children. Like, I was good at interacting and caring with children, and I enjoyed it. And then I found at some point, like, it was also really enlightening and empowering for me to like have that interpersonal, like intrinsic reward of impacting and like teaching a child, like teaching them something, making them better. I babysat a lot growing up. I would nanny sometimes. Like I worked at like Lifetime Fitness Child Center. So I always like, there wasn't ever a doubt. Like the minute I decided that I was going to go major as an elementary education teacher, before I decided that, it was between that or wedding and event planning, which are like very different.
I can see that.
But yeah, and I still love it. But so yeah, the minute I decided, it was like everything else revolved around that.
Okay.
So I just always knew I wanted to do it, and then I was good at it. And then I think just as I got more exposed to like different classes, and like even in high school, we got to take classes. We were going to elementary schools, and you don't really teach, but you kind of like help the teacher.
TA.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Just like very soft though, because you're like still 15.
Yeah.
And I thought that was fun because I loved the idea of being like a child's like, not their person, but like there's research that says that children see their teachers, like their teachers are the most involved adult in their life just because they spend 8 hours a day with them.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people spend more time with their coworkers than they do with like their spouse or partner.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So I think I like the idea of like being the adult that maybe my students look forward to seeing, that like made their day better. And I also think I had some key moments as a student that had memorable like teacher moments where I was like, I can still remember that teacher and I liked that they did that for me.
Do you think your, like with your goal to basically pursue that in college, like do you think that made you apply yourself to be like a better student in school? Like or did it just seem natural to you?
Okay. I mean, like, yeah. No, I'm just thinking about the fact that, like, I always joke that going to IU was for going to a great school. I wanted to go to a Big Ten school.
Boiler up. Just kidding.
So I wanted to go to a Big Ten school that was more fun. I wanted to, like, you know, be around all the camaraderie of, like, a Big Ten, like, atmosphere and whatever. But at the end of the day, I joke that, like, your job in college was to show up to class, do your homework, and socialize. And, like, honestly, that's not a bad thing. Like, that was it.
That's pretty...
So, like,
yeah.
Did I spend every night, like, making sure I, like, did my readings extra good and took notes and, like, followed up with office hours with the professors?
Oh, okay.
Did you?
No.
Okay. Yeah. And some people might do that, and all power to them, but that was not me. I got the bare minimum done because I was also, like, an experienced person. Like, I didn't learn from, like, reading and studying and, like, getting... It was like 100% on every assignment. I learned from like conversation and getting in the classroom and like people. Like that was always how I learned best.
That's how I learned best too.
Yeah.
Like I need to like, I'll watch a video. Like visual things help.
Yeah.
Obviously doing them in person helps the most, but like me reading something, like I can't.
No. Yeah. Which is ironic because like now I do appreciate it, but in small bits. So yeah, that was the kind of the start. And then went to IU, did a lot of stuff there, and then once I graduated IU, I got a job in Indianapolis and started at my school as a STEM teacher, basically. So science, technology, engineering, and math. Mm-hmm. Now, I will tell you, I actually taught STEAM, which people kind of like get thrown off by because there's an extra letter in this. Oh. I know. You
got me. I don't even know where I am right now.
Run it back. Science, technology, engineering, art, and math.
Okay.
So it just kind of...
I thought it was like astronomy or something like that, but art sounds good too.
Be under the S for science. That's okay. So it's both sides of your brain, so it's just more like another sector of STEM. So I taught that for first or sixth graders in my school. Okay.
I thought of this today because I'm a very smart person as well.
And humble.
Okay, I'm married to a smart person.
Proceed with that question.
Yes. Onward. Mm-hmm. So how does funding work for different school districts? Do you know? Like, let's say, for example, like something like when you're moving, one of the main things a lot of young adults or young couples will say is like, oh, we're going here because the school district, or like, they got good schools. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not exact. Maybe a different way of saying is like, what makes it a good school compared to not such a good school area? Is it funding? Is it?
I think that's up to the person.
Okay.
And that's probably a little bit more controversial and political conversation than for this podcast. But I think and to each their own. It's the same goes for teaching. So like now that I'm in leadership, you know, I coach a lot of teachers. I kind of help them be like empowered and comfortable and confident within the school setting that we teach it, because that's all I can control. Okay. And I understand that some people may move because they are raising a child and they are moving to a neighborhood where they want that child to go to school. They're moving because of business, because of their significant other's job. They may move and not want to stay at my school or our school anymore because the school climate's not for them. Like, it can be a million reasons.
Okay.
On this side, I can't speak for like families, so that's why I'm leaving that part out. But my point I'm getting at is like, it really is up to the person. So like, I know that teaching at my school is hard. Teaching is hard in general, but teaching at my school is hard. But for some, like for me, I like that extra challenge. I like knowing that I signed up for a school that has some of these extra layers of challenge, because that means that my work and my impact could be greater.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas some people, that's not working for them. They just want to go in, they want simple,
do their thing.
Yeah, and like all power to them. Like, it just depends on what you like. So same for parents. Like, you just decide what's best for your family, and like, no one can really argue that.
Okay, I kind of relate to that in a way where like I prefer the challenge most of the time over like kind of a simple easy go. Like,
and it's not saying that those people don't like challenge. Like, they just, that might be their challenge. Like, that might be challenging to them. Like, I'm not dissing on anyone's capacity of like strengths or endurance of dealing with challenge. Like, yours is yours. Just everyone's different.
Okay, so what's your current role?
So I taught STEM on STEAM for 4 years in the classroom. And that was for 1st through 6th graders. I taught all the kids in our school. So I had about like 600 to 700 kids every year. It was pretty well. And then after that, I do what I do now. I kind of have 2 hats. So I oversee all of the STEAM department at the elementary schools. We have 6 of them. So I oversee them. I kind of coordinate the vision for the program, because I was the first one that started it. So when I started, I was the only STEAM teacher. Now there's 6 of them. So it's something I'm proud of, but I oversee that program to make sure like the curriculum makes sense, the scope and sequence makes sense, like the lessons are good. I coach the teachers, I help them out. And then on the other end, in my specific school building, I am the instructional coach. There's a lot of different words for it. Some people call it master teacher, lead teacher is technically my title, but instructional coach is like the most universal. So what that means is I coach teachers one-on-one. I work with my principal and assistant principal, and we think through like looking at student data, how our school's doing, what do we need, what do our teachers need to learn, what do our students need, and then we plan out, okay, at Tuesday weekly meetings, which are called professional developments, we're going to do this, and then in coaching, we're going to work on this with these teachers. So basically, I'm like the middleman between the teachers and the admin, and to help the school be better.
What are some like common struggles that you have in that position? So like staffing?
That is one. Staffing, yeah. But I mean, like, I had to learn pretty quickly that I don't have total control over that. However, I think that's why I wanted the job. One of the reasons I wanted the job was because I feel like everyone knows there's a teacher shortage. Everyone knows teaching is hard. Everyone has opinions about how it is or isn't paid well. Everyone has a lot of opinions about what should change in a school, whether they've been in one or not recently. And I think regardless of that, the only way that we are going to sustain good educators is by nurturing them and like taking care of them and helping them like feel sane and grow. So yes, I wanted to be an instructional coach because I like learning. I like teaching. I still want to impact kids, and I still do. But I was like, someone's got to be an advocate for these teachers. Like, someone's got to connect the dots there.
Do you find some teachers, let's say, it's probably the same, actually it is the same in like any workplace, for example. You are under 30.
I am 29.
29.
Yes.
Okay. Still. So do you find it possible, like, do you find like a struggle in some ways, or like maybe a little bit of like butting of heads for, let's say, a teacher who has been around a little bit longer, who's of a different generation, having to listen to someone younger than them, probably with less teaching experience, maybe.
Yeah.
Like, okay, is it difficult for them to be humble enough to listen to your coaching or your advice?
Yeah, it's difficult for both parties. I feel like, and I welcome it. Like, I knew getting into this job, that was going to be a hurdle. Mm-hmm. And whether I'm the same age as someone or not, there's always going to be like the first step of like being a good leader is like building trust within the people you're leading. So that doesn't matter if I'm 50 or if I'm 12. Like, well, it would matter a little if I'm 12.
It's a pretty big gap.
Yeah. So yes, it was a hurdle. But the way I think about it is like a couple of things. So I learned pretty quickly that like age doesn't define if you're like better at your job or not. The same goes for really any career. But then on the flip side, like, I think what makes two people willing to let age not be a factor is their ability to understand that they both can learn from each other with something if they're both open to it. So like, I'm not going to come into a coaching conversation with like a veteran teacher being like, I know everything because I'm new.
Yeah, you gotta be humble.
Yeah.
So otherwise you're just gonna be like, here's this snotty little.
Yeah, and I would be annoyed with me too.
Yeah.
And then on the flip side, I'm also not going to go to teachers who have less experience than me and be like, I'm above you, so take everything I say. Like, I have plenty of teachers right now that are close to me in age, but still younger and like only a couple years into education. And like, I learn from them all the time. They are very talented. But you're not coaching and talking to people in education to see who's more talented. You shouldn't be. You're going in going, if we're going to both do well in this life, in our professional setting, education is an adaptable place. You have to be adaptable. So in order for us to both do well, we have to know that we can both take something from this, and we have to both be willing for it not to be like just a linear path, like it's perfect all the time.
And that's what makes a really good teacher. Like, a teacher has to be like humble enough and, well, I'm not to kind of say like humble enough, but like a teacher has to get to the point where like, my job is to make us see eye to eye in certain situations. Instead of like a teacher's like, nope, you're wrong, blah, blah, blah. Like, I had some bad teachers, or I was not a good student. I don't know. I think if you asked my mom, she'd say something. But I had some teachers that were just like, my parents did not like them because they were rude and just not very like, you're not helping me grow. You know what I mean? But it sounds like you're saying basically to have a good teacher and a good student, or a good coach and a teacher, like everyone, like you guys are learning from each other, because the ultimate goal is just for us to learn and grow. Like, you know,
a lot of people joke that like your instructional coach is kind of like your therapist, which it shouldn't solely be that. Like, there's a lot of research that I've done to really try to get good at my job. And like, coaching sessions aren't just like sitting down and asking how you feel, but like, coaching sessions aren't also just sitting down and telling you what to do different about what you're doing now. So there's like a happy medium, and there's like a blend of all of it. So a lot of what makes this easier when I have an age gap, or when I have an experience gap, or whatever the factor is, because I could think that there's no gap, and that person could be like, I don't even want this lady in my room.
Yeah.
So what makes my job easier is like, to be a good coach, you ask good questions and you just help that person reflect. And ultimately, like, I may not actually have a suggestion of what that teacher should do, but I'm going to be there to help them think through what they want to do.
Okay.
Because I'm going to give them the autonomy to decide that. And then we're going to have them do that. They're going to go try it. We're going to see how it worked, how it impacted students, and then we'll come back and talk about it. So I don't have to know it all. I don't have to have 10 more years of experience to be a good coach. I just have to know how to be there and be open to the conversation, and how to help that person do the same.
That's awesome.
And I feel like, so recently I was very honored and blessed to receive an award from IU.
I did.
Yeah.
So you're probably about to tell me.
I'll dust over it, because that's not what I want to flash about.
Okay.
But it's the Distinguished Alumni Award. And so I got it for early career achievement. So basically, within my first 10 years after graduating, I did some cool stuff. And that's what they told me.
Thanks for wording it my way. So
the certification said, she did cool stuff.
Okay.
So anyway, my point in bringing this up is I kind of hit on this in my speech, you could say. And I talked about, like, that was the platform for why I like doing what I do, why I don't mind being a coach at 29 years old, when I've only taught for, like, in my own classroom for so many years, and now I've been a coach for 3 years. Like, I'm still early in my education, but I know I have confidence that I can do it well without knowing that I know it all, like, know all what to do.
Yeah.
So in this speech, I kind of talk about that, and I share how, like, that's where the leading learner came from, my platform, is because you should always be a leading and a learner. You should always be both. And so I mentioned that it's like, not being willing to be both is taking away each other's right to learn from each other.
Okay.
So like, you and I in this conversation, like, let's say, you know, with your blowing up podcast and how many thousands of followers you have, if you were to come in,
goals.
My point being is like, yeah, like you should always be both. The people that choose to just think, I'm going to reach a point and only I have nothing more to learn, I become an expert, I think you miss out on opportunities to like really dig into your craft more. And then if you go about life thinking, oh, I don't know much, I'm just a silly little, 5-year teacher, what do I know? You're missing on your opportunity that you might not realize you're leading and like inspiring a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have known that if I just like tried it and like tried to get the job.
Well, it sounds like a big part of it is like believing in yourself and trusting your abilities or your skills.
Yeah. And that wavers, man. Like, for real, it wavers big time because it's a people profession. So it's hard, but.
Okay. As a leading learner, educator, teacher, what advice do you have for me on this podcast? that I've
geez.
been like I'll be honest, I've been like just so busy lately.
That's okay. I get
in
that.
doing things, and like I really want it to. I still struggle with like being patient enough to like get it to work properly. So like I'm still learning a lot of like the technical side, and circling back, like I need to see it all in person. Like I know a lot of people, I mean, I know there's studios that like you can rent out a space in order to. I'm like, I feel like I don't really need to do that.
Yeah.
Or like if someone does that, like I would definitely go sit and just watch a session.
Right.
And kind of like see like, all right, this is what that does, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Like one of my best friends went to school for audio engineering, but he lives in Minnesota. So like whenever he visits here, like we can get something set up. But what is some advice that you would say for me?
I think I can relate a little bit to what you're saying, because like it's the same reason why I was like, well, I know I want to start some sort of concept where I can provide bits of thoughts or conversations that like inspire people, right? That like teach people something. So with your podcast, you're able to capture conversations that can be of service or substance to people, to teach them something new, to enlighten their day. So I think you just always channel back to like, what was it that you listened to or scrolled and saw that made you think, I'm glad I saw that. I'm glad I heard that. And then how can you provide that with what you're doing?
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that's why, like, even today when I was like, what is your goal from this podcast, like this episode with me? Like, what is your goal for like, which you don't always have to have a goal, right? Like, because sometimes the best conversation comes just on its own.
Yeah.
But I think coming back to that is like, what are you hoping people can learn from this or take away from this, even if it's from 10 seconds of it? Because I think the reason I even like thought, okay, maybe TikToks, I could like start posting those, is I remember myself like scrolling through like really good times, times when I was going through it, times when I mean, like whatever's going on, like you have different like, you know, experiences in your life that are hard. And I just remember like, as much as TikTok was also just like fun and like mindless, and it was like the one thing I was like, these aren't real people, so this is enjoyable.
Yeah.
I had plenty of little things I would say from TikTok that I'm like, I'm really glad I heard that. That just pulled me out of this little funk. Or like, I'm really glad, even though I spent an hour sitting here scrolling, that one thing, I'm going to save that. And then like, I would find myself coming back and like showing people like, hey, this reminded me of you. Or like, hey, this is really good advice. This applies to what you talked about. And I was like, well, dang, I want to be the person that creates something like that, where people might share your podcast and be like, how cool is this? This guy talked to a D1 football player. Like, how cool is this? Like, this guy and his wife just talk about like, you know, raising their first kid, and like, we're doing that, babe. Like, let's, you know.
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying.
And maybe the people won't pull it, but if there's even like 5 seconds or 10 seconds from your podcast episode or TikTok clip or that people are going to go, oh, I didn't know that. I didn't think about that.
Yeah, there's a lot of like, I circle back because people ask me about like what are some episodes. I normally tell people like, don't listen to the first few because like I'm still figuring some things out.
Yeah.
But then it's like, I've had a little after I started it, a couple months after actually, we went to Minnesota, and someone's like, dude, I listen to your podcast like every week. Yeah. This is back when I was dropping weekly episodes. Really? He's like, I listen to it every week, man. Like, I'm just waiting for like,
that's
to come out. I'm like, oh, that's like really encouraging.
Yeah.
Because some people will be like, it's so cool. You had like a tattoo artist on, or you had a D1 football player, or a professional musician who, you know, is now like living in LA and doing all these things. And, or professional fighters. Like, that's just like, I like having like a wide range of people on. Like, I kind of relate it to, like, I listen to a lot of different podcasts, but like, I do listen to This Past Weekend probably the most with Theo, because he's pretty genuine. He has a lot of different types of guests on. And he's just pretty much himself. And like, there's a lot of takeaways. There's like a lot of moments in those podcasts where like, it's kind of emotional. Like, I relate to him in some ways. I mean, I'm from the North, he's from the South, but there's other things. So it's like,
but people like that. Like,
people like things you can relate to.
Like, I find myself in podcasts, sometimes I like the mindless conversations, but at the end of the day, I don't revisit them. If like I stopped at my car because I'm at my next destination, like, by the time I get back in the car, I'm probably going to something else. But the ones that I know are good, or the people that I know typically get on guests or get to conversation that like, I'm kind of like, oh, I like that, or that made me laugh, or that made me feel good, I'll come back to. So,
what are some other podcasts you listen to?
You asked me this last time too.
There wasn't a last time. Remember? It wasn't a last time.
I'm so lame. I was thinking today, like, a new mantra for myself this year is like, you can't self-help your way out of everything. So like, I think especially like, just my anxiety would go wild. And like, my first notion is to just like, go listen to something that's going to help you think about that and fix it. Like something that's going to help you be better, which I don't think is a bad thing.
Comfort.
Yeah.
Like a little bit of.
I find a lot of comfort, I think, and benefit, but comfort in like personal development, professional development, self-development, self-growth, like therapy, psychology, learning about yourself, why your brain is doing that, why you feel that way, like the whole thing. Okay. So I bring that up because I'm like, I read a ton of like personal development books and I listen to a lot of personal development podcasts, but like I like other things. Just like I don't know why. Like, so the first thing I think of, I will say I like the Biofiles, which is more of like a reality not pop, but like reality culture.
Okay.
Show. I like that. But Brendan Burchard, I'll listen to his podcast. Brene Brown, I'm a big Brene Brown fan. Mm-hmm. Big fan. Jay Shetty.
Okay.
There's a couple others. I like some health podcasts. Like I like podcasts where it's like short ones, man, that teach you like quick like health things.
Short ones are really good.
Yeah.
When I first started, like I was on a podcast before this.
Yeah.
And I think we had like an episode or two, and one of the co-hosts, he's like, "Listen, man, 3-hour podcasts are the way. Look at Joe Rogan." I'm like, Joe Rogan is also my biggest podcast. Yeah. And like I've had the longest podcast I had was like a little over 2 hours. So I'm like, I don't know a lot of people who are going to listen to that whole thing.
No, man, it's hard.
And like, especially for clips, like, and you do want like some memorable things like that.
Yeah.
Especially starting out.
Yeah.
So like the short podcasts I'd really like. If they're like 45 minutes or something like that.
Yeah.
You know?
But you never know. Like, yeah, so you'll find your craft. And like, I kind of had to learn that too. My friend would tell me she's like kind of taken off on TikTok a bit more, but for different things like fashion and stuff like that and lifestyle. Yeah. But I would ask her about it because she does a lot of PR. And it's just like, you just never know like what's going to be the one clip or the one episode that like caught some attention. But like you're gonna have 10 others that had like zero interest.
Yeah.
And that really tests you up.
Yeah, because I think we talked about that when you started leading learner. I was like, hey, how often do you look at your analytics?
And I
look at them too much.
Yeah. Yeah. But then I also like now I've had a couple that did hit. Yeah. Or like I think the hurdle also was like knowing that like people I know are gonna look at this, like you're gonna see them and then like my coworkers, and I kind of like knew that. I was like, that's fine. I mean, this is who I am. Like, this is what I like to do. And this is me just sharing bits for people that hopefully will help them. But I remember for a while that got weird because I would just see people view it and either not do anything or like view it and like maybe like it, but like it would be at like 10 likes.
Yeah.
And then though I would have one like where someone would comment that I knew and they were like, needed this today. I'm like, oh, that's good. Or like one would like suddenly, like I have a couple that have like thousands of like views and I'm like, whoa. That's awesome. But then like the next day I'll have one that has 200 and that's it. So I don't know. I think you just have to learn like what hits, what doesn't, and just go and enjoy it. Yeah.
Yeah. And just accept that like you're still new to it.
And that's not like
I have to remind myself
anyway. So
yeah, exactly.
So
true that.
Yeah.
Okay, so with the chaos or the chaotic life of being a teacher or in the education world, what do you do outside? Like what's your obviously Sunday scaries are like a pretty common thing in when it comes to, I think is it mainly common with teachers?
It's common with everyone.
Kelsey says it a lot.
Definitely with teachers. Okay. I get a lot less Sunday scaries and anxiety being in my current role. Okay. I had a different type of anxiety in my current role. Like my teaching role, it was like, oh gosh, okay, Sunday's here, making sure my lessons plans are good, just anticipating the week because like teaching is just performing, man. Like it's literally like you are on. Like in typical jobs, you show up to work and you have a second to like breathe, maybe like even if you have something going on, you're like, all right, I have some windows of time in between that I can sit down and kind of reassess. When you get to school, depending on how early you get there, you have like maybe 45 minutes to an hour, and then you are performing from, depending on the start time, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m.
Because you're live.
Yeah,
there's really no, it's like,
yeah, and that means didn't buy a ticket, they have to be there. Like they're there. And so I do think I get a lot less Sunday scaries, but my Sunday scaries are actually a lot more like, again, I'm confident about what I do. I'm confident I have stuff to offer, but mine are more just like a lot more imposter syndrome because it's a very not quick turnaround job. Okay. It's a long-term job, like a long-term reward job. So that can be hard.
Yeah. So with Kelsey's Sunday scaries, it was pretty much like she's struggling a lot with like just typical stuff, like some staffing issues or everything. Obviously when COVID happened, like that was a big like, okay, because right now she's in an administrative role where she has to see, deal with scheduling and then like this teacher's out, okay, I have to move this person here, but this has to fit that. So like, I just wasn't sure, like what we do to chill, like our Sunday is typical. Well, now it's like we have like a TV show we're going through or something like that.
Yellowstone?
We are not up to speed on Yellowstone yet. So here's what happened. We went on a huge binge, and I think it was like when season 5 came out, it was like, oh, it's only on like Paramount Plus. I'm like, oh, I'm not getting Paramount Plus. I'm just gonna wait.
Right.
And then during that time of waiting, we just like didn't like really care to pick it back up. Well, now everything's pretty much on Peacock.
Yeah. Or we have YouTube TV.
Do you have a favorite character on that show? Is it Rip? It's Rip. It's Rip. Casey, I like Casey a lot though. Okay, I'm not up to date though, so I might not know some things. That is a really good show.
It is.
Yeah.
We don't have to talk about shows, but I just asked about your Sunday.
Yeah. So our Sundays, like to get over Sunday scares, what do you typically do?
I will say I did like a good long distance run on the weekends. That was nice, but the only downside is it took up like all my day. So I love a good breakfast. Like I love waking up, light a candle, let the dog out, and just like
making it or going somewhere. Making it.
I like making it. I mean, I feel like going somewhere, but that's if I'm like lazy and I don't feel like cooking.
What's your platter? What you got? What's going on in the kitchen?
There's
a lot, but
just.
I'm a big breakfast guy too, so that's why.
Yeah, I love a good French toast. I usually. Why is that funny? What do you?
People don't normally say that. That's not their first pick.
Do you ask all your guests what their favorite breakfast is?
Because that topic doesn't come up.
So
I wasn't laughing. Sorry, I'm just like
laugh like that was absurd.
No.
French toast.
My son loves French toast.
Okay. And eggs. And then, a little coffee, a little moment.
But I like French toast over like pancakes and waffles. Waffles are cool, but like I don't know. I'm not a big waffle guy. Outside of work,
yes,
your hobbies consist of reading, probably something nerdy
reading.
like that. Okay.
Oh, yeah, I like reading. I like working out.
Any book recommendations?
No, tons. It just depends on if you want, I think personal development books, like I said, are like my thing. So I love a good Brene Brown. She's easy to read. She has very like research-based stuff. It's not boring. It's not like very like this study shows. Like it's very much like tangible, real life, real feelings.
That's good.
So she has a couple of really good ones. That's like the first one off the top of my head. I've read a couple like the stereotypical ones, like The Subtle Art of Not Giving a, and then
you know what? Okay.
And then
edit that out.
I try to think of the other ones that I've read that are like common, which I can't think of any.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like reading. And then like for a while, my hobby was like that platform, Leading Learner. I still like have it and I still utilize it, and I can be better about being disciplined with it. But right now I'm in my master's too. So like I go to school, I have a master's program, we work at the bar part-time. So like it's a little busy. Yeah, that's kind of the hobbies for me.
Okay.
I do a little music. I'm a piano player. Do enjoy a good piano play.
Can I know that? I didn't know that.
Since I was 5, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. For a while, I thought I wanted to teach music. I thought that was going to be my forte.
Mm-hmm.
But
what sports did you play in high school? Did you play high school sports?
Mm-hmm. Soccer and volleyball.
Okay.
And that's actually kind of going back to the running. Like that was part of the reason. I always liked soccer, really liked playing. There just came a point where I was like, 1, I'm not as good at running. Don't love running. 2, I can tell my coaches don't love that I'm not good at running.
Yeah.
And then 3, like that definitely psyched me out. I eventually had like coaches or experiences where like that made me feel very inferior. And so I think being able to get to a point where it's like, no, I can run X amount of miles and like feel good was kind of like proving to my high school self, like proving to those coaches, like.
That's one thing I noticed from running too. There's a huge like mental,
like
running is hard, not just physically, but like mentally, just because you do have that sense of like, I just ran 13 miles.
Yeah.
Like,
but I would try to find ways to motivate myself. Like, I don't know what you did on your runs, but I would just try to think like, I like picturing, I'm a little bit of a softie. So I like picturing like on race day, I'm going to be doing the same thing, but there's going to be people cheering on the sides. Or like, I know I'm going to stop and be able to like say hi to someone that I know.
That did help. Having people helped.
That was cool. And then, you just like get in your zone of like, there's some people right now that are not doing this. So, just do this because you're doing it. You can. There's people that can't or don't have the motivation to, like you're doing.
Yeah, that did happen. I was talking about that at the gym with some people because they asked me like how it was. I was like, honestly, like what helped was like having people on the sides. Like you almost forget you're running. You're like, ugh. How
Yeah.
did you forget that you were running?
Yeah.
It's like you could tell.
I don't.
Like,
I definitely never forgot, but
I don't want to say I forgot, but it's more like you didn't think, like when I saw somebody, like when I saw even Hamilton, like
yeah,
the first time I think we're at like mile 4.
yeah,
I don't remember. I saw him like sometime after that, but I forgot. I'm like, oh, I see him. I completely spaced out. I just ran 9 miles.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
so you're
That's-
kind of like you like a little like adrenaline boost.
Yeah,
and
I
stuff.
never like, dang, cool for this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty cool. Yeah.
But yeah, that was it, man. That's kind of like the gist. I tried to take some like to boost my platform because originally my platform was like, I mean, it still is, but like I said, like connecting with people, impacting people. I would try to like speak at more places. So I had a couple of like, I had my first paid speaking gig, which was kind of cool back in April. Yeah, like April, May. That was the first time someone actually like approached me and was like, "Do you do this?" And I was like, "I guess." They're like,
How does that work?
Did I tell you about that?
Well, like I think I saw a TikTok or
I mean,
something
yeah.
where you were teaching, but it's like, did someone just walk up like,
So I did
"Can you
it.
do this?
and
I
I
just
did-
Venmo you."
Yeah, man, it's weird. But like this is the goal. Like I would love to be able to do this. So I would always present at places, like present at conferences and stuff for education because I had stuff to offer. So I like
Yeah.
and that would also get you free registration. So I would present for free, be a presenter, right, at multiple places. And I just lucked out. Like there was a conference I did back in March, maybe? I don't know, in the spring. And it was an indie conference and it was on like a Saturday. And I was one of the approved presenters. And then I looked at the presenter list. I was like, oh, there's only like 6 presenters. That's cool. So there's got to be a lot of people in my session, hopefully. Or because I've done sessions where there's 2 people in my session. It's been humbling. So I was like, okay, well, this is cool. And then I remember I got there. It was like, there's a ton of people here. And so I had a really good turnout. So that felt really good. My session was on like more of the people side of education and like building culture of staff and teams. So anyway, I had this whole session. At the end of it, this lady came up to me and she was like, hey, I really liked your talk. I feel like our staff would really like this. What's your rate?
Nice.
And I said,
Let me go with my assistant and then she'll email you.
and I literally was like, oh shoot, this is like what I was told to do. Like I've been honored to like speak with some what do you call them? Keynote speakers that I've seen, and they've been willing to talk to me on the side, and I would ask them like advice, like how do I do this? Like this is what I want to do, and they're really supportive, and they're like, you kind of just have to do it for free until you can pitch yourself enough to be paid for it. And so originally that's what I was doing. I was emailing places like, hey, I want to come speak on this and this, and here's my talks, and here's some bits of me speaking. Like I was at that conference partially to get clips of me speaking.
Okay.
People knew what I sounded like. And yeah, someone came up to me and they're like, yeah, what's your rate? And I was like, oh, and they said, focus, Becca, focus. Think about this. And I was like, give me your card. We can connect. Like, I'm happy that you're interested, and I would love to hear more about what you want.
Yeah, because that gives you time.
I just stuck. Yeah,
it's like let me think about this for a second.
And not because I didn't I wasn't faking it, but that was just the first time I've ever been like approached like that. I was like, okay, and so I connected with them, and we just like had a Google meeting and talked about like what they wanted and what her staff was like, and I was like, yeah, that's kind of my goal is to go to either education, like schools, but also like companies. Like one day that'd be cool to go somewhere and provide them some sort of training or inspo or keynote. So I gave her my topics, like on my website, on the Leading Learner website, I have topics for my talks.
That's good.
So I let her pick one. And then she picked one. And then I was like, cool, let's find the date. And then she sent me a contract. And I gave her my hourly and we did it. And then she brought me back in August, so I had to sit down and I don't know.
Yeah, it must have been an okay job.
Okay.
I can kind of relate.
Oh. Or the payment part of doing an okay job.
Not the okay job part. It's so okay. So we used to both work at the boxing gym, multiple boxing gyms.
Yes.
So like I had someone approach me like, hey, can you do personal PTs? Like, what's your rate?
Yeah.
And I had to like really think. I'm like,
what is my rate?
I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Like, because I don't really think about. Yeah, like you gotta be ready, but like I also like. When I'm teaching or coaching, like I don't really think about like the money aspect of it, but I understand there is that side of it where it's like, yeah, like how much would you charge or something like that. I still get it a little bit now at the gym I'm at. I'll do some PTs every once in a while, but like I don't.
But you're also humble enough to not to be like, I'm going to do this because I like doing it, and like, yeah, I should get paid to do it because I do it well.
Yeah.
But I'm not like,
Like, I typically am not like, hey, we start at this time. And
Yeah.
exactly 6. I'll be like, look, meet me at like 7:45.
Like
we'll
$50.
stretch out. Yeah, we'll stretch out for like 10, 15 minutes, and then like we'll go.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I'm still new.
But that's what you have to do. It's like you either do that just because you like it, or you do that and that's your starting point, and eventually, like, it may go up. Like, maybe you'll have consistent clients. You never know.
Yeah,
So that's been cool.
PTs.
Yeah, in this very room.
Well, this or also the gym that's down in east side of, not too far east side of Indy, but it's downtown Indy. So, well, that's encouraging.
Thanks.
That's encouraging.
It was fun. Yeah, we'll see. I haven't done it in a while, but it was a good, like, it made me realize the switch of, like, not only that was my first time being paid to go do something that I love doing. Not that, like, I don't love teaching. I get paid to be an instructional coach. Like, that's my salary. But, like, to do something extra that I'm putting my work and my mental energy into. I got paid to come out and give to these people that I don't even know. Then, knowing it was enough of an impact that they wanted me to come back, that was, like, enough for me to go, okay, I may still need to work on this. Like, I definitely do.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that I'll be perfect the next place I go to. But I now have this kind of switch to going, like, I don't feel like a little beginner anymore. Like, I'm early in it, but, like, I can do it. I just got validation. I can do it, and I can speak places. And it was cool.
That's a good feeling to get that, like, the valid, especially like if you're like believing in yourself, like sort of like when we learned cocktails at the bar that you bartend at now. Yeah.
Yeah. Totally the same.
Well, not exactly the same level, but like that type of thing where, like, my very first time doing it, I don't know what you were like. First off, it was like 9 a.m. on a Sunday.
Yeah, that's right.
And we were pretty tired. But, like, you're learning and you're dealing with all these, and you're like, I don't want to, like, mess this up.
Yeah.
But then it's like a repetition thing. The more
the day you learn how to double shake and not panic about it.
Have you done that yet?
Yeah.
Nuh-uh.
Yeah.
I've seen it on TikTok.
Not that hard.
I know. I want to get, like, a cool, like, shakedown. I could do the spin. I'm the only one at the bar that does that.
Well, nobody asked, but I have a question for you.
Oh, good. What
If we're
about
gonna keep
time we're at about?
Well-
It took an hour for you to ask me a question.
I didn't know this was my podcast interviewing you.
No, I always tell people we can talk.
Well, I think that's what we've been doing. If I recall the words coming out of
The first time we recorded.
So, what is one big, like, memorable, like, maybe life lesson or, like, quote, I guess, like, something from one of your episodes? And you won't offend any of the guests, but, like, what's one that stands out to you that you're like, you still think about? You're like, dang, that was good for me to think about. Like, that was good.
From
your
my
podcast,
guess.
yeah.
Um,
One of your episodes.
Lewis Hamill, the second time he was on, we had a conversation about just practicing gratitude. And then it, like, I'll have to, like, go back. I have a clip of it on my page, actually. I'll probably share that. Why not? But we just talked about, like, learning to just be grateful and kind of, like, not get so worked up in certain things. And I actually got, like, a prayer journal for my wife, and there's, like, an area where, like, I talk about being grateful and stuff. And then there's this other practice that I heard someone else do on a totally different podcast, and it was like at the end of every day, write down like hey, I was grateful for this today, or like, what am I grateful for, blah blah blah. So then after a while, like, every morning you wake up, you're like, oh, what can I look for to be grateful for today? And you just kind of, like, stick with that. Like, and that's something I really wanted to apply this year. It's just, like, gratitude in a lot of things, because sometimes I get worked up over things that really just aren't worth. Yeah.
Oh, there's a quote that I had to have on my phone that I wish I could pull up, but it's about, I'm reading right now a book called 101 Essays That Change the Way You Think. It's a pretty, like, stereotypical book, but it's good. It's really easy. But they talk about how, like, a lot of times the irrational fears in your head is not actually, like, the idea that you think they're going to happen. It's you protecting yourself. Like, it's like, it's very, they kind of put it in a better way, but I definitely do the same thing. And so, yeah, gratitude helps you be more mindful. It makes your mind kind of go centered with, like, what actually matters, because it things that you can, like, that are realistic.
Yeah, I would say so. So my episode with Lewis, where he talked about gratitude, was a big one. Man, I have to go back because I've had some really good guests, and, like, I've never been asked that before. I'll give episode recommendations because I know there's a few where I remember some, like, stand out, but a lot of them I just try to highlight the guest mainly because it's like, hey, I want, like, people to understand your story, and I want to hear your story, and I think it's, like, cool to share. Like, Tyler Sapp is a really cool guy. He's a friend of mine. He's been on twice. He's a musician out of LA. Kyle McCord, another musician, actually out of Indiana. But it's like, it's just cool hearing people's stories because, you know, everyone has a different passion in life. So,
you can learn something from
I
it.
can learn something from it. And it's just cool to see, like, yeah, why are you passionate at that? Oh, like, and then you start to think, like, oh, that's kind of how I feel about this.
Yeah, I didn't know I could take that lesson from someone that lives a totally different life than I.
Yeah. Totally different life.
Yeah. That's Leading Learner, man. We have a lot in common.
The episode that will always stand out to me, no dig at anybody else's, when I interviewed or had my skydiving instructor on. And I was just like, dude, why do you do this?
Yeah.
He's like, guys, it's awesome. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I've done it. Anyone out there who hasn't done it, I'm not telling you to go do it, but like the feeling you get after doing it.
Yeah. It couldn't be me, but
I don't think I'm going to do it now. Now that I have a family and stuff, it's like, I just don't.
Yeah.
No. It's like a 50-50 shot. Like, I feel like it's
a pretty strong.
You know, actually, don't take my word for it. I bet that the chances are probably not that bad because you do have 2 parachutes and you have an instructor on.
Couldn't be me. I'd rather sit in my pocket.
And you have goggles on.
Yeah.
So like your eyes don't dry out.
Yeah.
That's a big thing.
What would you call this chapter of your life if you could name it? What's the title of this chapter?
Wow. Year 1.
Mysterious.
Well, I'm a dad. So it's figuring out first off, he's our newborn, so he's our first one. So like I heard this somewhere else actually, but it was like every first time he like notices something, that's our first time too. Like his first discovery doing this, like it's our first discovery seeing him first time having a meatball or something. So it's just figuring out like being a dad and then balancing that in life with his first year of life, essentially.
I like that.
Yeah. Or goal chasing. I like year 1 though. Year 1
is cool because that's kind of like it's just mysterious.
Yeah, it is.
But it makes sense.
Yep. So I don't know. It's weird because like as soon as I turned the age I did,
which is
35.
Thanks.
Yeah. Somebody thought at the bar, they only had 3 beers, but they thought I was 25. It's like,
why do you say this? Because you want?
I don't know.
You're like, oh,
I don't know. But no, it's weird because like this year alone, like so I trained for the half marathon. I'm fighting next year, and I have like a newborn, or not. He's 10 months old now, but it's like I sometimes forget. Sometimes I put a lot on my plate and not realize it.
Like it.
But I don't overbook myself.
One of the best quotes I heard, though, is that you want people that are going to come to the table with more than a plate. So if you put a lot on your plate to give, to do, to serve, you have to surround yourself with people that aren't just going to show up with an empty plate and fork ready to take from it. They have to also bring something to the table. So I know.
Leading learner. That's true.
Yeah.
I'll give you that. That is true. It's fair. Ask me another
more questions.
Yeah, sure. I'm down. People don't ask me a lot.
Yeah, I think also.
Am I a serious person?
No.
Okay. You can be honest. That's okay.
No.
Okay, why did you pursue boxing? Years ago.
Bigger story. I thought it was really cool.
Pretty cool.
I think women that box is really cool. I always knew that I had like a little bit of like, I mean, I'm a sassy person. I'm probably a little bit more fiery than some love, as I've been told. But I knew that like I wanted to channel that, and I learned that boxing could become like my thing that made me feel very strong and powerful, and that like I'm the only one I need in the arena.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, at a time that like I just needed something like that. Like I needed fulfillment like that. I started in college. It was cool. I wanted to try boxing. There was an opportunity that presented itself to participate in a philanthropy for it and represent my sorority. I was very protective of my sorority. I was also like my sorority's new member educator. So like I was in charge of all these like new members. Like I cut that again, like the educator in me, like I was like, I need to lead. I need to like represent. I need to like show up for these people. But at the same time, I probably didn't realize I was like in need of showing up for myself. So yeah, I did it. And that was one of the best things I've ever done for myself. It was the best feeling in the world. Probably peaked. That was my peak. And it's all been downhill since then. But no, it was, yeah.
Okay.
I love it. I think it's like such a mental, it's just such, I mean, you know, you like boxing too, but it's just such a mental game. Yeah. So I would recommend anyone, like, actually, if I had to say, I've never boxed before, I've never run a half marathon before, what should I do? Go box.
Go box. Yeah, come to my gym.
Yeah, don't run.
Not my actual gym, but the gym that I do teach at and work out and train at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just such like, for me, it's like an irony thing because like I'm a delicate person. I'm a sensitive person. I love very hard to a fault, but I'm also like, can be very blunt and stubborn and like fiery. That's like part of this tattoo.
Yeah, you're pretty inked up as a teacher. Dragon. I wanted to ask you about that. So
that's part of the reason for the dragon too, is like, that's always going to be part of me. And so I just kind of embrace that. So like I can be a boxer and like smack a bag for an hour, but then I can go home and be very like caring and loving and like
a dragon.
Sensitive. Yeah, dragons do that. What is a piece of relationship advice that you have learned since having a child that applies to you and Kelsey that you didn't know about each other before?
I think it is definitely learning how to communicate differently. Mm-hmm. For example, like when you have, like everyone talks about like the sleep that you're not going to get, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, after a while, you kind of learn you're both tired, exhausted. There might be like a moment where you kind of like maybe snap a little bit, but not like act out or anything like that. And then it's just like, I'm sorry, I'm just a little tired. Like, nope, I get it. Like, we get it. Like, you both kind of like learn together.
Have you guys gotten better about like communicating when you know that like you could snap? Like, where it's like, hey, today I'm at like a 20%. That's all I can give you. Have you gotten better at communicating?
Yeah, we do.
Okay.
I think one thing is sometimes she doesn't tell me. All the time she doesn't tell me that she's like, I've had enough right now.
We hate telling you.
Until it's too late.
You're supposed to just know.
And then I'm over here like dancing around with the kid or like listening to music. Definitely being like a child, right? And because I'm a big believer in like humor therapy. To a degree.
Time for that
and sometimes it works. A lot of times it's like I have to remind myself, okay, she had a big day at work. Work is stressful. She commutes home. Sometimes, like when we first get here, if you haven't heard them, the dogs in the background.
Yeah, a lot of stimulation.
There's just a lot going on.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where, and I need to do that too, where I just need to say like, hey, I just didn't have a good day. I like don't say it until after I'm like, she's like, what's wrong? You seem annoyed. I'm like, well, it was this. So instead, I just be like, I just didn't have a good day.
It's hard though.
Yeah.
I'm definitely more on Kelsey's side where I'm like, if I'm like even just decompressing from something or like processing something, and you're dancing around me,
I'm not like that all the time. I am not like that all the time.
No, it's
she's gonna be on
it's so
soon,
it's so good for you guys to have that balance. But I say that because I remember there was like another Brene Brown quote that's all about like a lot of people say relationships are 50-50. They're not 50-50. Sometimes it's 80-20. Sometimes it's 70-30.
Wait, I know who you're talking about.
Brene Brown.
Yeah, I saw that quote where it was like, some days I'm gonna have to be 70. He's gonna have to be 30.
Yeah. But you do that knowing. So the only way that works, that 50-50 doesn't matter as long as it's like both on like both sides, is if I know that I'm gonna have to give 70 today because for whatever reason you can only give 30. I know that because I trust our relationship that the next day or another day later, you're going to be able to give me more when I need less.
Like I'm kind of like, I'm like refueled or something.
Yeah. But otherwise, it's like, that's why I think where people fall out because you cannot give that every single day and like know that the chance of the other person kind of returning the favor is like.
Well, it's kind of toxic too.
Yeah.
Because you could almost have that person who's only giving 30 like, oh, so this is going to be my normal. You're like, yeah, that person is draining.
And like your effort, your 80% effort may not look the same as your significant other's 80% effort. So like I talk about this like actually with teaching, this is like one of my biggest pet peeves. A lot of especially like older people will be like, oh, this person thinks that's hard, try doing blah blah blah. It kind of reminds me of Sue Sylvester from Glee if you've ever seen it, but she always would say stuff like
that. It's a good show. Yeah. We were talking about that yesterday.
Yeah.
Kelsey and I were.
So people will do that, right? They're like, oh wow, you think this is hard, try raising a kid and blah 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 blah. Or you think this is hard, well try growing up and blah blah blah. Like You'll never guess what I've seen, you know? And while I get it because they're trying to give perspective, which is important, you cannot blame somebody for not having the same capacity for hard that you do.
Yeah.
So, for example, a new teacher at my school, if they're just struggling because it's like, this is a really difficult job, it's taking a toll on them, they're exhausted, these kids are a lot, you know, they're every day they're going home and like just exhausted or crying. And then if like an older person or a leader is just like, oh gosh, she thinks that's hard, you know, that is going to get you absolutely nowhere. There's a balance of a conversation where it's like, this is hard for you now, but in 2 years, if you stick with this will not be the hard. Your hard capacity will grow.
So we hear so like as parents now, we have some really good, like close friends of ours that are like pretty much the same age. They have like 1 or 2 kids around the same age as our kid, or maybe a little older. So like they give like good advice. If they listen to this, they probably don't think they do, but they do. But there's other people that like we'll see in past and they're like, ugh, you just wait until like this happens.
Yeah.
Just wait for that. And like we make a joke of it where we say just wait, but it's honestly like, listen, your struggle won't be my struggle.
Yeah.
Like my good day won't be your good day.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean like you could sit here, because you're not giving me much hope.
Yeah.
Saying that. You're probably giving me some more awareness of something, but it's like how is that help? Maybe instead you could word it like, I had to deal with that too. Here's what we did to work through that.
Yeah.
You know?
Or like, what's one step that you can make?
Yeah. And it's just like, and what happens is like, people are saying that to us now where, it doesn't really get in our heads, but it's one of the things where like, I mean, if you really want 2 kids, just blah, 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 blah. I'm like, how is that helping us?
Yeah.
Did you make it through? Cool. Then that's what we're going to do.
Yeah. Toss me your advice, but don't sign up for a contract to take it.
Yeah. Here it is. Last question.
Okay.
Last. Give some parting words of encouragement.
About what? Like,
what is some advice that you would give to somebody who is kind of just struggling with like either self-doubt or validation or believing in themselves?
I say this as someone that is very much not an expert or perfect at it. But
it's a good start.
One piece of advice I always try to like tell myself, because I beat myself up a lot. And like there's things that like happened 4 years ago that I still harp on about, like way I've handled things, the way I've treated people, or the way that they may not have understood what I was trying to do, even though it came off this way and all that, right? I think anytime you're going through a mode where you're like overthinking something or very deep into something or really like down on yourself, you have to imagine that everything you're saying is what your friend is saying. And like, I know this is not new news, but like, what would you tell them? And sometimes it's like a therapeutic practice to talk about whatever you're going through in third person.
Okay.
So like, it kind of sounds a little bit like Tarzan, but like if I'm up, the other night I was up till 1 a.m. I'm having like major trouble sleeping, and my brain is just full half marathon, 6-minute mile. It's going.
Yeah.
And so one practice is to like pause and 1, recognize what you're feeling. Recognize that 2, despite what you're feeling, you're still going to wake up tomorrow and figure it out. But then like 3, to go like, Becca is feeling this. Becca is worried about this. And then like, as you begin to do that, you are detaching your mind and like your emotions, like your part of your brain that's like connecting emotions and like bodily feelings to it.
Okay.
To that concept. And now it's a more tangible thing you can visualize.
Kind of like separate yourself and get like the overview.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Just talk about it. Like if you were sitting down and saying like, yeah, I'm really overthinking. I think about this. I worry about this. I would take those thoughts and imagine someone else telling me they feel that way. Because I can give the best advice ever, right? But then like, I cannot take it myself. And so detaching yourself from the things you're saying, it's very hard. One book I will recommend for that, if you are like an overthinker or someone that like really wants to just like, it's called Untethered Soul for a reason. So it's like you just kind of untethered from like all the things that rush through you. And it's called Untethered Soul by someone. I don't know. It has like a horse on the front, but that's a really good book. So yeah, I think just allow yourself to reflect on what's really going through your head. Identify what's irrational, because a lot of it probably is irrational. I'll have to find that quote, but and then talk through it like you would be talking to someone about their problems, imagining those are the things they're saying to you.
Okay. That was really good, actually. I'm sure that struck someone's heart?
Well, and they can find more things that strike their heart on my platform called The Leading Learner. Kind of on Instagram. We're more on TikTok. We're just really not loving the Instagram. But you can find that on The Leading Learner at TikTok.
You can view more analytics on TikTok.
Yeah, it's just better. But yeah, you can find more there.
Okay, Leading Learner.
Yeah.
On TikTok.
Yeah.
And the gram.
It's been wonderful on Project Showtime.
Thank you.
You're doing some good work.
Hey.
It's been so great.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.